Hello guys, it's Isaac Frank here and welcome to yet another video on the Solidity tutorials series. Well, in this video I said I would talk about the loops, but thinking about it right now, trying to explain the loops, I will need to do some decision making like the if-else statement. So I tried narrowing it down and all I could come up with is using the operators. So before we go into explaining what a loop is and how to implement a loop, we should first look at operators. As usual, I've logged into the remix ID. I'll create a new file. I'll name this loops, and in here, usual, create your compiler version. This is the recent version. That's what I'm making use of here, and a contract. So this is basically operators, just like in maths. We have types of operator. We have the arithmetic operator, we have the comparison operator, and we have the logical operator. We also have the assignment operator, and we have the ternary operator. So we'll take a few examples here. The arithmetic operator, you know of the plus, the minus, the subtraction, the addition, the multiplication, all the stuff. We'll talk about this. So for instance, if you have an equation like this, so as you can see here, the 5 and the 7 are called operands, but the additional sign is called an operator because this operates on these two values. So with that out of the way, first we'll talk about the arithmetic operators. Like I said, the arithmetic operators are the operators you learned in school. The basic, the addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, the division, this is the modules, and we have the incrementation and we have the decrementation. So let's talk about this. I assume you guys know what this first four does. This is to add two numbers or more numbers, this is to subtract from a number, and this is to multiply, this is to divide. Simple examples are 5 plus 6, 8 minus 4. So these are basic maths you should know. And this here, from this item, it becomes a little bit tricky. In programming, there's one of the arithmetic operator we call the modules. So what this does, when using a module divides and returns the remainder. So for example, I'll create a function here. It shouldn't take a number. I'll make this public and perhaps a view, and it returns a string, and then it's this. So in here, I will divide. I will just return I said a string, sorry. Okay, so as you can see in here, I should just duplicate this. I should just duplicate this. Okay. I'll name this modules. Okay. So in here we'll make use of the module operator. As you can see, if you use a division, let me just quickly run this in here. Okay, we're using the JavaScript visual environment, and make sure the contract is selected. Then I'll deploy this. As you can see, the division, if I should call this function, it returns 2 because 4 divided by 2 is giving you 2. But if I should call the modules function, it returns the remainder. 4 divided by 2 gives you 2 with no remainder, so it returns this. But let me make this complicated, just give 5 and delete this and redeploy. As you can see, it returns 1, which is the remainder of this equation. So that's what the module is for. Next we'll talk about is the incrementation operators. What this does is to increment the value. So to show you some example, in here I'll create a public value, or name this ID, I will initialize it as 0. Okay, just call this print. I'll call this increment, and I call this decrease. Is to increment ID, and this is to decrement ID. So here I defined a variable, named it ID, initialized it with 0, and in here I return the increment and decrement methods. So if I could delete this, if I should deploy this control right now, oh shit, what's wrong with me? I need to make this public, sorry guys. Alright, I think we're done here. If I should deploy this control right now, and as you can see, if we check the ID is 0. Once we increment this and we check the ID again, the ID is now 1. I don't know if you can see this. I should just increment this a bit. Okay, so as you can see, the ID is 1. Once we increment, we check it again, it's now 2. Once we decrease, we check the ID, it's now 1. So basically, what this does is to increment a value. So there are two types of incrementation. We have the pre-incrementation and the post-incrementation. So this is the post. In here, you have to give this to a string. In here, we are defining the ID before incrementing. Although it's still the same, but making use of it in a loop, we'll see the difference. So the post is this. The pre, sorry, is this. What we are saying is it should increment first before adding it here. So if, for instance, and I do this, what will happen in here is, in here it assigns ID to this u variable. So whatever ID is at that moment, which at the beginning of our contract is 0, it assigns 0 to here and it increments it, which means 0 is 1, but the u variable will be 0 because we assigned before incrementing. But if we should do the pre, what it does is it increments before assigning. So it increments ID to 1, then assign it to the u variable. Same thing happened with the decrementation operators. So that is it for the arithmetic operator. Next year we should talk about the comparison operator. The comparison operator is when you want to compare two different, what I call them items, two different elements, two different values, and you want to check if they should return. Comparison always return a true or false. So you're trying to check the similarity between two different values. This can be done. We have the should I just try this? Oh, and I'll try this. We have the double equal sign, which is known as equal. So if, okay, we'll talk about this in a few minutes. So we have the double equal sign, which is known as equal, and we have the not equal, and the exclamation and the equal sign, and we have the greater, we have the less, we have the greater or equal, we have the less or equal. So let's quickly talk about this, and right here I'll make this a view so you can see this. So in here we're trying to compare our ID with, okay, let's see, let's just create a new ID here. Probably it's necessary. We'll call this ID1. Okay, clear this off. Okay, so in here we're trying to compare these two IDs. We can quickly okay, we should just return. You should remember when I said comparison returns true or false, which is the boolean. So I'll change this to boolean, and you should just return ID equal ID1. So what this does is it checks if ID is equal to ID1. As you can see here, ID is 0, ID1 is 9, so this sign is equal. This should return false. So let's see if our code works. If you deploy this, and call the function. As you can see, it returns false. I should just make this private or something. As you can see, it returns false. So that's what the equal sign is, to compare two values, all of them here to compare two values. So if we should say not equal 9, this should return 2 because 0 does not equal 9. And we should deploy this again, and to check this, it returns true 2 because 0 doesn't equal 9. Same with the greater than. So if we say it's greater than ID1, this should return false because 0 is not greater than ID1. If we say less than, it should return true because 0 is less than 9. So that's it. If we do the less than or equal to, what it does is it checks if ID is less than or equal to 9. So this should return true because ID is less than 9. But if we should make ID 9, it will also return true because ID is equal to 9. So it checks if ID is less than 9. If it isn't, it checks if it's equal to 9. Same with the greater sign, just the opposite of this. It checks if it's greater or equal to. So that's it for the comparison operator. Next we'll talk about is logical operators. The logical operators are, well, this. The logical operators are the and, we have the or, which is the pipe, we have the not. Okay, this reverses a boolean value. So let's say in here, okay, I would give this a bool, and I'll give this a false and a true, and in here I'll give this. So we're trying to check, use the and. So we're saying return whatever this evaluates to. So if ID and ID1, so this returns either true or false. If ID and ID1, what this means is if ID is true and ID1 is also true, but in here ID is false and ID1 is true, so this won't return, this will return false because both of them aren't true. And if we should make use of the or operator, if we do this, what this does is asking if ID is true or ID1 is true. So what this does is it checks ID is false, it won't end yet, it checks if ID1 is true. So once if any of this is true, it returns true. Why this, if any of it is false, it doesn't return. What? But this pipe operator, even if a single element is true, it returns true. We have the not. So since this is returning true and want it to return false for some reason, or not really for some reasons, like want to reverse, okay, let's just give this true. I'll delete this. Let's say ID1. So obviously ID1 will be returned as true. But what happens when you do this? I'll delete this and deploy again, and then we try running this. As you can see, it returns as false. So this this symbol, this exclamation, is like a reverse. It reverses bool values. So for instance, let's say as you have a value here and you do something in the function, and you have if statements. Future video will talk about that. You have a statement where if something happens, you want to reverse the value. This is what you make use of. Once you put this in front of any bool value, it evaluates to the opposite of that value. So what this does now, it turns this ID to false. One thing you should get clear is that it doesn't affect the main ID, it just affects the value in here. Except you're reassigning it to this ID, then this ID will change, but even after this ID remains true. Okay, so that's it for the I think this is the logical operator. Yeah, next we'll talk about is the assignment operators. The assignment operators they are really nice. We have the normal assignment operator, which is used to assign a value to a variable. We have the plus equal, we have the minus equal, we have the multiplication equal. So basically we have all arithmetic operator followed by an equal sign. Now to explain what this means, so we change it back to units. It can be true, we'll keep this value 9, and we feel like we want to change the value of this. I don't think we even need to this function. We want to change the value of id. Perhaps we want to add a value to it. We can do this way. We can say id, what's happening, we can say id should plus 8. If we do this, there's a flaw in here because this value has not been assigned to id, it's just on its own. To do that, we have to assign it. Doing so, as you can see, we are trying to assign this one because we are outside the value, but okay, I've just put this in the function. Let's see, this will work if I make this a view. Okay, so what int. Okay, so as you can see in here, we assigned id to equal whatever the value is plus 8. So a 9 plus 8 should give you 7. Let's just check this work. We'll return, oh shit, what's happening to me? We'll return id1 and it should return what's happening? Also, I use return instead of return. Okay, hopefully this works. And if I should deploy this contract again, okay, we call this function. What's happening? Oh shit, it's not a view function, so it can't return. But if we should check in here, this should be the output, right? So you can see it returns 49 because we clicked on it many times and it keeps adding 8 to it. But a simpler way to do this is a way where you won't repeat this variable. So to do that, that's where the this assignment operator comes in. To do this in a simpler way is to do this. So what this does is it takes the value of id, it plus 8 to it, and yet it assigns it back to the id. So as you can see, this is a simpler and easier way to do this. This works for other arithmetic operators like the minus and the division and the multiplication and the modules. This works for all arithmetic operators in here. So that's it for the assignment operators. Next we'll talk about is the ternary operator. The ternary operator, so to do that, we should just return a bool here because it returns true or false. So in here, I should just add this here, and the ternary operator. So to write a ternary operator, first thing you have to do is this. Like I said earlier, this returns either a true or false, which is a boolean type. So I should just make this to return a value, and in here I will make it a view so that it can display on our screen. So here the first statement is the condition, and here after the condition, in here is what to return if the condition is true. This is not a recode, this should be a sample, and here is for if false. So I should just copy this and place it here. So whenever you want to write a ternary operator, put in this the question mark and the semicolon first, and before the question mark is the condition, after the question mark is what to display if true, and after the semicolon is what to display if false. So we can say in here we'll define it, we'll check a condition. So we say in here we check on condition using the comparison operator. So we try comparing this to a number. We can say id 1 equal 1 9. So if this condition happens to be true, what we want is for it to print true, so we can just define true here. And what we want is for this, if it's false, it should print false. I think this should work. Okay, now we have to deploy again. Deploying this contract and going back, as you can see, this returns true because id1 is equal 9. So what this does, it runs this first statement just like an if statement on a single line of code. So as this statement is done, then it goes over here, it picks the value here and returns it. So you can also call a function here which calls a function that returns the value, but you note that the function must always return a value if you're using a return statement, except you are doing this stuff maybe in the body of the function. So you can call the function in here. So once it's evaluates to true, this function is called. Once it evaluates to false, this is called. So that's just it for the ternary operator. It really helps if your code is an if statement that doesn't really need blocks of else if. We can make it a one-liner code. So I think we've covered operators. Next we'll talk about now is the loops, which brought us into the video. I just want to cover this stuff because we might make use of it in a loop and I don't want you all to get lost. Before we get back into the video, I would like if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notification. So back to loops. When creating a contract, there are times where you feel like you need to repeat an action, or you need to perform an action over and over again. So that's where loops comes in. It's just like looping a music or putting the music on repeat, except in programming you have access to know how many times this loop runs. I think I should clear this. Yeah. Solidity supports some necessary loops to ease the pressure of the programming, so you won't have to repeat tasks over and over again. Let's say for instance, okay, there are types of loop you need to know about. We have the while loop, we have the for loop, we have the do while loop. I guess these are all the loops we have in Solidity. We'll start from the first as usual, the while loop. So the while loop is the syntax isn't much confusing. It's just while. You can think of it as reading an English language. This is just the syntax of a while loop. So in here, between these parentheses, we define a condition. So once this condition evaluates to true, the code runs, else it fails. So for instance, and before we do that, okay, so let's say we have variable here, we name this 7, I'll give it 7 as value. In here we have to check a condition for this code in here to run. So I can just say while the id is equal to 7, do something in here, do something, maybe call a function or something. So this code, alright, I forgot to mention something. We have two types of loops. We have the infinite loop and the normal controlled loop. So if we should run this code is an infinite loop. While id is equal to 7, it does something, then it goes back again to check if the condition remains true. So far as the condition is true, this block of code keeps running. While it goes, it does something, it comes back, id remains 2, it keeps running till your system crashes. So don't ever make a mistake of doing this. Always find a way to control your loops. In here we said while the condition is true, it should do something. I'll just give you, it should do something. Okay, like I said, it keeps running and to run forever. In here we have to set a time range for it, like a counter. So right here we'll declare a counter. Sorry, son, int. Right here we'll declare a counter, we initialize it to 0. So while I is equal to 7, or this whatever for element 2, so we should do this while counter is less than 7, increase counter so in here okay. I keep forgetting. I'm not sure if I'm anything. So what this does is while counter is less than 7, it increments counter. So in here we've kind of set a path for this loop, meaning this loop will run the first time counter is 0. It comes in here, it increments counter, counter gets to 1. It goes over again, it increments counter, counter gets to 2. It comes over here, counter is still less than 7. So this loop keeps running till counter evaluates to 7. So whenever counter evaluates to 7, it tries running again and counter is now greater than 7, so this condition doesn't pass and the loop stops. So when creating loops, especially while loops, you should have to define some kind of counter or some kind of if statement to break out of your loop. Alright, then we have the for loop. The for loop, so far the for loop has been the most used form of looping. It has 3 parts. The for loops has 3 parts. It has the initialization part, just like this counter we created here, but the for loop is totally different from it. So let's just take a look at a for loop. We have a for loop. It's done. This is syntax for a for loop. First it takes a counter, so you have to initialize the counter, which I'll do in here. I'll give it an I, which is just a convention in programming. I'll give this an I, but you can use any ID, any name you come up with, obviously. I'll give it an I, initialize it to 0. And next we do is it has the test statements. So in here I'm trying to check if I is equal to 7, just like what we did here. So I will do this: I is less than or equal to 7, and the last also end with a semicolon. And the last part of the for loop is the iteration method. So in here where we incremented our counter, we do it on the same line here. So I plus do something. Yeah, so as you can see, this is exactly the same thing this while loop will do. But as you can see, the for loop makes it easy and readable. So first we initialize a counter, which is what we did here, and next we set a condition, a test condition to guide the loop, which is what we did here. And finally we increment this I. If we don't increment, it will be an infinite loop. So we increment this so that this condition will evaluate to false. So it keeps running just as this loop will run till it reaches 7 and it breaks out of the loop. That's it for the for loop. Remember, it takes 3 parts: the initialization, the condition, and the incrementation. Next we have here is a do while loop. The do while loop is I think I'll call this the opposite of the while loop, in the sense that the while loop checks the condition before running the code, whereas the do while loop runs the code before checking the condition. So this is the syntax for a do while loop. So remember, a do while loop, this is not actually syntax, this is a reminder of what a do while loop looks like. This is do and while. So it does a block of code, then checks the condition. So to get the syntax of the do while loop is like this, and in here while. I'm just going to change this. So what it does is we can do something while true. So the very first thing this does is it goes over here it does whatever is in this block, and then it checks the condition. If the condition returns true, it does it again and checks the condition, whereas the while loop checks the condition before doing it. So a do while loop must run at least once, because it does the block of code before checking the condition, which means at first it doesn't know what the condition is. It runs this code, then checks the condition. If the condition is false, it ends. If it ends false, it continues running. So when using a do while loop, know if it's the right loop to use in that particular process. So that's it for loops, and I think we should go over to loop control. There are ways to handle loops apart from if statement. There are ways to break out of loops and handle loops. Maybe you're in here, you use an if statement, and an error happened, and you want to break out of this loop. You don't want to keep running this loop. There are ways Solidity helps you do it. There are some keywords you can use to break out of a loop without it completing its cycle. The first one we'll talk about is break statements. Let's say I create an infinite loop. As you can see, this code will run forever, like forever. But if I should add this here, what this does is once it tries running, it reaches here, it breaks out of this loop. It will try running it again. So the break statement terminates the loop before the life cycle is complete. Maybe you're looping through an array, and after going through the array, you're looking for a particular element. Once you get the element, there's no need searching through the array anymore. So using this keyword, you could just break out of the loop. This break statement works in all loops, the for loop and the do loop. So it works in all loops. There's also maybe once if it reaches a particular number, if it reaches a particular iteration, you break out of the loop. So once you do what you do, and you can check if statement. I said I won't write if statement here because I've not talked about it. So once you use if statement, which we'll talk about in the future video, once you use an if statement and you check your condition, and they say, sorry, I can't help. If they say I is equal to 4, okay, so we say I is equal to 4. Remember, this returns a boolean. This returns a boolean, either true or false. So if we say if I is equal to 4, I don't use an if statement. So if we do this inside the if statement, we can call continue. What this does is the first time it runs completely normal. So once I keeps iterating till I reaches 4, instead of it to do the stuff it's supposed to do, remember in programming, wherever you put your code, that's where it runs first. So I suggest you put this up as in above the first line of your code, which is what I'll do here. Okay, put this first line of your code. So once this evaluation turns to true, it continues the loop. So once I reaches 4, it continues. It's keep doing this part for number 4. It goes to number 5. So that's basically what a continue is for. It's used to skip, while a break is used to terminate a loop. So I think that's all for this video, guys. In the next video, we'll talk about decision making, if statements, and if statements and decision making. Like I said earlier, please subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so you won't miss a video from this channel. Take care, guys. Peace.